Welcome guys to this new tutorial, and today we're going to be building this beautiful login form or sign-in form. So basically we are going to use HTML and CSS to style up that. And with no further ado, let's quickly jump into that build. Okay, so right here we have our empty HTML and CSS file, and to start that I'll create an HTML file, the boilerplate, and I'll say HTML5. all right. And first thing, I'm going to change the title, and this is going to be login form. Okay, this is going to be login form, and inside of login form we have the body, and apart from the body I'm going to create a main class, a main element, and that is going to be our main content, where it's going to be located. Next step, I'm going to create a card, and it's going to be called the login card this way, and that is going to be a div inside of which we're going to have an h1 that is going to be the sign in. So next step, after the h1, I'm going to create a form, and I'll give it a class of input so that I can reference it later on. And for now we don't need this action, I'm going to delete it. So here I'm going to create two inputs, so I'll just say input times 2 this way so that we save some time. Okay, after creating that, all I'm going to do next is to add placeholders here. I'm going to say placeholder, and for the first one it's going to be enter name this way, and for the second one we'll just also say maybe enter password. Okay, because that's normally what we have on a login form, name or email, then a password to confirm the identity. Say enter password also here, enter name like this, and we are going to have a button of type submit so that we can submit our information to our back end for verification. And here, to make it easy, I'll just say submit. So underneath this form we're going to have a p tag, a normal p tag that's going to say don't have an account. Then we are going to have a link that is going, for now it's going to point at /nothing, and just inside here we are going to say sign up. Okay, and this is basically what you see in forms, sorry. And if this was a sign up, here we could put a sign in. Okay, I think it makes sense. So after doing that, another step is to link our CSS file, and I'm going to say style.css, just like that. So I go back to my browser, and all I'm going to do here is to look at my page. So this is what we have up until this moment. Now this needs some stylings, right? But on the HTML we are pretty done. Now we need some stylings to style that and make it look like our final build. And to do this, I'll go to my CSS and I'll tag all the elements, and to all those elements I'll give them a margin of 0, and I'll give them a font family of sans serif, just like that. So I also tag my main tag, and I'll give it a height of 100 view height, just like this. So next step, I'm going to say background, or I should first give it a width, and this width is going to be actually 100%, or you can leave it as it is. And I'm going to add a background here, and this background color is going to be, or background, because I want to put a linear gradient. Also linear gradient to right, okay? And that when you see a background color having two colors, right? You may see it goes from blue to black, from red to blue, something like that. And now this is going to be to right, and here I'm going to say RGB, and these values inside here are going to be 15, next 121, and then let's try 121 again. Yeah, it's kind of blue. On the other side, the second color is also going to be RGB. 1, just going to put a 1. The next step I'll put a 40, and lastly I'll put a 77, and that should output some other bluish color. And to prove that, let me quickly go back here and refresh. So when I refresh, you see now we get, it goes from this blue straight to this blue, okay? And now the next step, we need to style all this card. And to do that, all I'm going to do is to go back here, and I'll tag this login card, okay? And the login card is this class we have defined here. And for this class, I'm going to give it a width, and I'll say the width should be 500 pixels, not percent, and I'll give it a height, and I'm going to say the height is also going to be 500 pixels. So next step, I'm going to say background color, and this background color, or let me just say background, it should be, I think I need to blur that, and instead of background, I'm going to say background filter, and now here's where I need to output a value, and I'm going to blur that, okay? So first give me a sec, we delete this, and I'm going to say background filter. Let's look for background filter, it's just right here. Let me look for it. Actually, let me put backdrop filter, and it's going to be blur, and this is going to blur the whole background by 10 pixels. So next step, all I'm going to do is to saturate but 180%, not pixels but percent. And now I'm going to do this for all browsers. So I'm going to say backdrop backdrop filter, and I'm going to repeat the same. I'm going to say blur 10%, 10 pixels, sorry, and saturate 180 pixels. So after doing that, next step, I'm going to say border radius. The border radius should be 12 pixels, and down this, I'm going to say to set a background color to white smoke. And next step, I'm going to say display flex, so that everything that is inside of that card gets centered, right? And I'm going to say align items, this should be centered, and justify content should be also center, and the flex direction now should be column, okay, so that everything gets centered vertically. If I go back to my browser, I give this a try, okay, nothing seems to happen, right? And that is completely okay. We will fix that in a second. So to do that, I'll just add a capital C here, because that's what I had put in my HTML as a class. So after making that small change, if I now go back, hopefully I will see the changes, right? Now you see at least something is happening in my browser, right? So with no further ado, let's continue styling that login card. So after doing this, the next step is going to be the inputs. I'm going to style the inputs, and these inputs are right here. That class of inputs is this one on the form. So to style that, all I'm going to do is to say display flex. This display should be flex. And next step, I'm going to say flex direction columns, because by default the flex direction is row, but now I would like to change it to column. So flex direction column, and the width should be 80%. Width, I'll say width 80%. Width 80%. So this way we're going to change the width a little bit. So now all I'm going to do inside here is to say I'll target the input section. I'll first target the button. Maybe we can start styling the button. I'll say button, and this means this greater than sign means the direct child, right? And this should have a margin top of 2 rem. Apart from that, we should add a width of 60%, a width of 60%. Now after adding that width of 60%, let me show you what is happening and what I want to change. The little trick I want to show you. After adding that, you see it gets centered. It's still centered, but to have radius on this. Now I want this part to be centered. How can I do that? It's straightforward, and that is the little trick I use most of the time. So all I'm going to do here is to add a margin left and to calculate. Okay, I say 15%. It's just an example, but now if the overall width is 100% and this part has taken 60%, that means we remain with 20%. We remain with 40%. And if we put a margin left of 20% at the beginning, it's going to be considered as 20% at the beginning and 20% at the end. That means we take back that 40% that we have reduced. So as soon as I put here 20%, now it should change, and we give this a try. Give me a sec. When you refresh, now you see it has been centered the way we want it to be centered. That's the trick I wanted to show you. So let's continue styling that. So after adding that, I'll say the height, and the height should be 2 rems. Okay, the font size should be 18 pixels, and border radius, the border radius should be equal to 10 pixels. Next step, I'm going to say border none. I would like to remove that border on that button, because by default all the buttons and the input field have that default border. So I'd like to set it to none, and the outline to set it also to none. And the outline is that border that appears when you click on the element. So if you have ever seen when you click on an input or a button, it outputs some default border, right? And we want to get rid of that because we don't want it. So I'll say background color, and this background color should be equal to RGB 10001 187, and at the end we should have 255. Just that way we get some bluish background color. And now I'm going to style the two inputs we have, and I'll style them by their tag name and not by their class. So you should be aware of that. And I'll say margin top, or whatever there, margin top, it's going to be equal to 1 rem, and just a minute. Have margin bottom. Margin bottom is also going to be equal to 1 rem. So next step, I'm going to say padding, and this padding should be equal to 8 pixels, because I would like each input to have that padding around it, right? Inside but around. I hope you get it. The next step, I'm going to set the height to 30 pixels, and now I'm going also to remove that default border and outline from the input. So say border equal none, and outline is also none. This way, and I continue by adding some other stylings like the border radius. I would like that border radius to be 30 pixels, and beside that I want to give it a kind of glassmorphism. Okay, and to do that, I'll first set the background, and that background is going to be equal to what it's kind of white, but I don't know exactly which color that is, but it's kind of something like white, and that color is, do I remember, it was E0. Yeah, we got it. E0, E0, E0. And now next I'm going to set the box shadow, and that will be at 10 pixels, 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 7 pixels, and we will have this color 8B, 8B, 8B. Then next we are going to have a minus 2 pixels, minus 2 pixels, 7 pixels, and this is going to be equal to the 4 Fs. Yeah, I think, oh, actually there are 6, I don't know, but I think it will look like that. So we just check for a second. I refresh. Whoa, now you see those changes, right? Look at how the input look like. I think at this point they look nice, right? And you can type in whatever you want, Markim, you can delete. Yeah, that's pretty it, and I think it looks really nice. So now next step, I'm going to style the anchor tags, right? Because let me show you what I mean. When you see this anchor tag, it doesn't look nice, right? It doesn't look nice, or it doesn't look the way we want it to look like. So to style that, I'll go back to my Visual Studio, and I'll select all the anchor tags, and we only have only one anchor tag or one link on our project. So that way we can select it. But if you have so many links and you want to style them differently, you should be selecting them with an ID or a class, something like that. So I'll say here text decoration is going to be set to none, and the color is going to be set to, give me a sec, the color is going to be set to RGBE, no, only RGB, color RGB, and the values for this one are going to be just these ones right here. Okay, so now if we give that another try and see how it looks like, remember you have to refresh. So after refreshing, yeah, that looks a little bit nicer, but let me just try to look another color. Yeah, maybe something like this. So now if I just take a look at another time, all I'm going to see is this color here, and I think it looks nicer than the previous color. So let's continue the styling, and next step I'm going to do, after styling that anchor tag, all the anchor tags, it all depends on you. I'm just going to say there is a default behavior here, or what I don't want, and that is what I want to fix here. And let me first show that to you. You see, for now, this whole login form is placed on this side, but we want it to be in the middle, right? The way we saw it on our previous build. And we don't want this to look like this. You see the way everything is kind of concatenated together. So to solve that problem, I'll first check at my login form and my login card, sorry, it's right here. I go back up, and instead of doing this justify content center, I'm going to say justify content space evenly, and that will put the same spacing between all my elements in the page or on the page. So if I refresh here, oh, now you see this looks nice, right? This looks nice, and the last thing we want to fix is to put it right here in the middle or in the center. And to fix that, I'll first go to my VS Code, and what I would like to do practically is to set this login card in the middle of this main tag. Okay, and to do that, I'll come here to my main tag, and I'll say display flex align items center, and justify content center, and up here I have to say center. So after doing that, I'm 100% sure it's going to work. So again, we give this a try, and now it's centered in the middle, exactly how we want it to be centered. And guys, that's all for this login form. That's our final build. It looks really nice according to me. I don't know what you guys think about that, but thank you for watching. And if you want to see more content like this, try to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any video. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.